Last week we started a process where we're going to permanent financing on some of the outstanding, on the temporary notes that we have. Mr. Beinfeld's here from Hawkins and Delafield. He's our bond counsel that's been our bond counsel for a long time here. And he was going to go through the process. Two things I guess a couple things we got to do is we got to pass well, I should say we have to consider 2 resolutions. And we also need a decision on, we got into the conversation last time with Samuel Klein and Company concerning the wraparound opposed to the level schedule payment. So we do need to make a decision on that. Mr. Beinfeld then will also explain to you the process of what it works. We're kind of in a small window because we do have a weekly printing, so we do expect that tomorrow, after a decision is made today, that we will need to get some work done and some advertising done in order for you to have the bond sale on February 13th. So I guess at this point I could turn it over to Mr. Beinfeld, if that's okay, Mayor.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome, and I apologize for keeping you sitting there. I didn't realize we had so many comments from the public tonight. So
no problem, Mayor, members of the committee. Thank you very much. The township has short-term, as Mr. Sluka.
yeah, could you just maybe if you sat closer to the mic, bring it a little closer. Yeah, I think that'd be fine. If you just bring that closer, yeah, yeah, or that. Thank you.
The township has financed capital projects with notes for the last few years' worth of projects. Those notes are typically rolled over from year to year, and they are coming due in about 4 or 5 weeks. If the township were to consider taking those notes to a permanent financing with bonds, what we'd have for you tonight are a couple resolutions that would implement that bond sale. There's a disclosure statement that has to be produced by the township to inform the investing community about the bonds, the details of the bonds, the demographics of the township. It's used to get a rating from the credit rating agencies, Moody's Investor Service, and so on. So we sell by a competitive sale process. It's actually electronic bidding platform that was approved by the state a couple years ago to modernize the bond bidding laws here in New Jersey. The resolutions here tonight would implement that sale, would kind of kick it in, authorize the rating application process, the printing of an official statement, the selling of that debt in a couple weeks, 2-3 weeks, in order to get the money in here in time to pay off the notes when they come due at the end of next month. And I'm happy to answer questions you may have.
Does anybody have questions?
I have a question. We've been presented with 2 schedules, and one of them we're referring to as the wrap around schedule, and the other one we're referring to as the level schedule. And there's some rules regarding issuance of debt, what has to go to local finance board and what doesn't. One question I have is it possible for us to use a modified wrap whereby we pay more principal or do larger issues in the first few years, or you can say a modified level schedule, either one. What I'm getting at is that we've been rolling notes for a long time. We've built several buildings, and we failed to bond that. Our previous township committees have just, like you said, rolled note, and I'd like to get busy paying a little principal, but also not bite the taxpayer too hard. I mean, this is all of our responsibility, and I'd like to share that with the people that have used this resource for the last 5 years, the people that are going to use that. So just get more balance than the wrap.
Sure, Committee. There are all kinds of legal financial schedules, maturities that you could choose that would be something that would be discussed with financial advisors, professionals to display how those maturities and debt service with projected interest rates would affect the tax base and so on. I understand you're considering a couple schedules.
I guess I could narrow my question down. And
sure.
It's if we chose the level plan, could we somehow, I'm sorry, excuse me, if we chose the wrap plan, could we somehow pay an additional amount of principal in the first few years than we're paying right now? Would that need to go to a local finance board, or would that be acceptable? If let's call it $177,000 or $175,000 in the first 3 years.
Committee, and I can help you out as much here. I can tell you the legal parameter on what your choice may
Okay,
be.
thank you.
And then you have to work the numbers in around that parameter and see how they play out
Fine.
with various projections. The parameters, without getting special state approval, are that any one maturity, when you have bonds, that you select a number of years that you're going to have them amortize in, and any one maturity, they refer to it as a 100% step up. Any one later maturity can't be more than double an earlier maturity. So within that confine, you can construct, I would think, lots of different amortization schedules. But the legal requirement would be that any one later maturity cannot be more than double an earlier maturity without getting special Department of Community Affairs, Local Finance Board approval for that.
So by increasing the size of the issue in the earlier maturities, it really should not have an effect on whether or not it goes to the Local Finance Board, since we couldn't double it if we're increasing.
Some of the numbers that we had talked about yesterday with Mr. Briggs and yourself, the schedules that you have, just to clear that up in front of you, is the first year is a half-year payback on the bonds. And a full year on the notes, while the numbers are just schedules per se. But you're seeing a number of 254, that would be about 340 as he looked at it in real numbers, if you know what I'm saying.
Saying annually adjusted, is that?
Well, no, because Samuel Klein sent out a schedule as a full year, just to give you an idea of a
You're going to pay the
schedule.
half year now and a half year on the back end.
So he wanted you to realize that it's a half year in the bond and a full year in the notes payout in the first year. So the amount is 340 and not reflective of the 254, I'm sorry. And I don't have that in front of me, I'm going by memory, so. But basically what he was telling you, and that didn't change his opinion of what he reflected to you yesterday. He just, I think he was just wanted to make sure we were clear, because when he had left here, he had thought maybe that he was given, that the impression was given that these are the numbers, opposed to these are the schedules. Hopefully that adds some clarity.
You want to share with the audience what his opinion was stated to the Finance Committee?
His opinion was that he had looked at the both schedules. He became familiar with some of the outstanding debt that we had. He had some issues relating to some of the work that may not get done, and some of the small balances left, and we talked about that. And his recommendation, I believe, was to use the wraparound schedule. And again, because it gives you more flexibility as you go, you may be able to do something else as you go further on. But my understanding is that he was comfortable with the wraparound schedule.
Yeah, in particular, what I focused in on the fact is that in the second year of the level payment, what he pointed out is that we would take a 3-cent hit in our taxes if we go with the level, as opposed to if we go with the wrap, we could construct the payments of the principals using what the funding itself to level off the impact on the taxes, which we couldn't do with respect to the level payments, but we could do with the wraparound payments. And that was what struck me. So that for the next 6 or 7 years, we would have almost no impact, adverse impact on the tax schedule if we used the wrap, but we would have a significant impact next year. And considering the kinds of budget crisis that we're facing, I think it's only prudent to take it one step at a time and work the debt around the other bonds that are debt that is going to be satisfied in a few years. If we wrap it around that way, we would be able to keep our tax impact to a minimum. And you know what? The schools have done that with their bonding, and we see what the results are there. They're very successful in keeping the impact of the bonding very level, and especially with the most recent $16 million bond issue. So, I mean, I certainly would like to follow their lead.
Right, Mayor,